Good evening or good afternoon, I should say. I'm used to saying good evening. I'm not
Yeah.
used to this time zone change that we made, but good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, on this lovely Saturday afternoon. The Eagles are taking on the San Francisco 49ers tomorrow, NFC Championship rematch. Biggest game of the year so far. We're definitely going to have fun discussing that matchup and a bunch of other things that's been going on with the Eagles. Lindy and I both have our number 10 jerseys on today. DeSean Jackson announced his retirement. We're going to discuss his career and some of our favorite uh, DeSean Jackson moments and memories and stuff like that. We got all kinds of stuff to get into today. But Lindy, what's up, man? How are you?
We got a whole lot to get used to here, other than some of the Eagles changes and all that's going on, the rumors and whatnot, the preparation for the game, being on a new streaming platform. So we were doing a little bit of that before we came on here, but it's all situated now. We're ready to go, man.
We're ready to go, man. So let's get started. What do we have first on the agenda?
Number one here. So we gotta look at this, man. So it's been in sports media and all that. The Eagles winning in a lucky fashion. So the last two games, we know we were on the holiday break for the LinkedIn podcast, and we didn't have one around the Thanksgiving time, but that was around the time of the Kansas City Chiefs game. So we weren't able to recap that for ourselves. So I thought I'd add it into this one because both of those games had a very similar result between what we seen in Kansas City, and then Philly comes back home on their second Kelly Green game to face Buffalo. And my goodness, it was, both games were a tale of two halves. So I had to I had to kind of classify this question as, and describe it as, which game did you feel, James, that was more of an impressive win to you, all things considered, between us going to Arrowhead and beating the Chiefs in their building, or taking care of business in overtime against the Bills on Kelly Green night?
I definitely think that the Chiefs game was more impressive because of where they were playing. As I said many times, Arrowhead is one of the most difficult places to win a game. And you get down by double digits against Kansas City. Their defense has been outstanding. Like, no slouch to the Buffalo defense, but the Eagles put up 37 points against them, despite getting off to a really, really slow start. But, that's nothing to be sneezing at, the defense. I know Kansas City has been about their offense with Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce didn't do too much in that game. Here's the problem that I have with what people are saying about both the games. It's always about, what did the other team not do? How did Valdez-Scantling not make that catch? How did Dalvin Cook not make that catch? How did Josh Allen miss Gabe Davis? How did this happen? How did that, how did these teams not execute in that situation? However, the Eagles were also put in a situation where they did have to execute and they did have to make the plays in order for them to come back. Jalen Hurts escaping the pocket against Buffalo, 3rd and 15, touchdown to Zacchaeus. Huge play in the game to take the lead. The last drive in overtime, made a lot of great throws. Devontae Smith, big catches. They had to make the plays to get themselves back in the game and to win it. So it's not our fault that you're not executing and you're not doing what you're supposed to do. That's not our problem. That's your problem. So that's why I have such an issue with everyone saying that, oh, this was lucky and that was lucky. It's only lucky because they couldn't cash in on the opportunities that they had. The Eagles had opportunities that they had to cash in on them, and that's exactly what they did, and that's exactly why they were able to come back and win both games.
I mean, this was tough for me to decide. I'm torn between both. Although the situations were very similar, I would have to say for me, the Bills game was probably a little more impressive. Yeah, we understand where it was with everything that you talked about, with how hostile of a territory and how hostile it is to go to Arrowhead, one of the most difficult places to win a football game. And the Eagles have not had a good track record against Andy Reid. He's been very hard to beat. Sometimes teams can be had at the at the worst parts, at the worst times and at the worst days. I think for me, the Bills game, the Bills game, Jalen and the Eagles offense had to do a lot more climbing than they did against Kansas City, because at halftime of watching that Chiefs game, I was telling people Kansas City had the same problem against the Dolphins, and the Miami Dolphins had a lot of chances to just close the door and beat them in the second half. The Chiefs did all of their damage in the first half. They scored 21 points. They get to the second half. They let up a big goose egg. Kansas City did not score a single point against the Dolphins in the second half.
That's
Much like
turnovers. Travis Kelsey fumble in the red zone was a huge play.
much like against us, Kansas City scored absolutely zero in the second half. Only this time, the Eagles did take care of business, a la everything else you want to talk about. Valdez Scantling having a wide open touchdown and dropping it, and Mahomes was trying to lessen the blow and saying I could have given him a better ball.
Even if
Objectively, that was a great throw. It
even
was.
if yes it was, but even if he makes the catch, there's like a minute and 48 left, and
Yes.
the Eagles have all their timeouts, and all
Yes.
they need is a field goal. So
Hmm.
that's why I don't believe, especially after last week, you can't tell me that the game's over at that point, because the Eagles went down the field in a rainstorm,
Yep.
and Jake Elliott made a 60-yard field goal to send the game to overtime. Buffalo, Josh Allen misses Gabe Davis, miscommunication. Eagles down the field, touchdown, game over. So you
Yeah.
can't tell me that if he makes that catch, the game's over. There's way too much time left, and they have 3 timeouts, and all they need is a field goal. Game's not over. At worst case scenario, that could have been an overtime game. Or the
Yeah.
Eagles go down the field and score a touchdown in regulation. We don't know. But what we do know is the Eagles won the game, and they're 10-1.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that, and I think that's one of the underrated aspects of the Eagles in general, is how well they're able to make the adjustments that they do. Yeah, they play like crap. They played like crap the last 2 weeks in the first half, but you also have to credit them to the fact of how well they're able to make those adjustments, and I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a minute. But going back to this Bills game, the first half, Hertz was 4 of 11 for 33 yards, and like absolutely nothing with that. He had a 0 passer rating at one point, and he finished the first half with 7. So he then comes back. He then comes back into the second half, 14 of 20 for 167 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and then he tacked on two. He tacked on two more. One was the brotherly shove, and then you had the game winning one. So and I just have to marvel at some of these statistics that he's having in the second half. And I got two articles up here courtesy of Jeff Kerr for CBS NFL. In the second half, when tied or trailing, Jalen has completed about 68% of his passes for 686 yards, 10 touchdowns, no interceptions, passer rating of about 137. And yeah, you can talk about that. Oh, James Cook had a missed opportunity. Gabe Davis had a missed opportunity. Stephon Diggs only caught 6 balls on 11 targets. Same thing for Gabe Davis. He was 6 of 12. You can talk about all the mishaps that the Bills have had and the Chiefs have had across both games. But when the rubber needs to meet the road and when the high level of intangibles need to kick in, that's all on Jalen Hurts. It's like the coach can say whatever he wants. The offensive coordinator, calling the plays and giving him the plays and whatnot. There's a level of setting your players up for success, but there's also a level in how Hurts establishes himself as a leader and produces the level of execution that he does that really makes all the difference. The dude was a stone face for for about the entire game, and
He never smiles, man.
you remember when they panned to him with that camera after Jake Elliott nailed that 59-yard field goal in the wind, in the rain. I still can't get over that kick. That's just it's
He was
been talked
shaking his head.
about. It's been talked about all this week. Like, do you understand how difficult that is? How how hard that is to do? I think what is it? Jake Elliott has made all of his, what is he, 100% on kicks 58 yards or further?
It reminded me of Adam Vinatieri just like making a kick in a snowstorm in New England. And in those kind of conditions, 60-yard field goal. I mean, Buffalo missed like a 45-yarder
Mm-hmm.
in the game, and he's making it from 60. In a situation, I trust Jake Elliott to come through. So against the 49ers, if it's a tough game late and we need a drive to go put 3 on the board to win the game, I trust that it's going to happen.
That was a 4th and 17. They trotted him out there on a 4th and 17
The
to
thing
go for.
about that was the drive was going really, really well, and then Kelsey had a couple of false starts, and then that started to put them in a difficult situation, and then they weren't executing the plays right, and AJ had a drop pass, so it wasn't good. But they ended up being still able to give Jake an opportunity.
I mean, I'm like they pan the camera to Hurts and he's just sitting there, no emotion, just shaking his head because he knew deep down his team, they shouldn't be in this situation. He knew deep down that this isn't what I want. This isn't the type of standard, and it's been for how many weeks that he has said that in his press conferences, and you know it's keeping the main thing the main thing. He's not changing his tune about what he truly thinks and how the team is playing right now. And I mean, that's what you want. That's what you want out of a leader. It's just I'll tell you, we'll get to another topic, and the reason we brought this up is because of just DeSean Jackson, and I'll get to it. But I go back and I was watching some of his highlights from 2019, and I'm thinking to myself now, what did we do to deserve Jalen Hurts after going through all those years and trying to figure out if Carson Wentz was going to be the guy in the future? Hurts comes in the situation that he does, and again, we'll get to it. But
Yes,
what did we do? What did we do to deserve this kid? It's
I
it's
don't know.
unbelievable.
I don't know, but we can talk about Jalen Hurts and what he's done all day, but DeSean
Yep.
Jackson retired from the NFL after having a great career. Unfortunately, the only thing he really didn't do was win a Super Bowl. Um, So many great explosive plays, so many moments for the Eagles, the punt return against the New York Giants,
Mm-hmm.
the Monday Night Massacre, as they called it in 2010, where first play of the game, Michael Vick goes deep and he takes it for a touchdown on the opening play. There's so many plays and moments of DeSean's career that we could go back and look to. But what's your favorite? What's your favorite moment of DeSean Jackson?
I have I have too darn many. Um, everybody there's so many people that pick Miracle at the Meadowlands number 2. Um, I appreciate that he was a part of Nick Foles' record day and having 7 touchdown passes against the Raiders. Um, all the times that he obliterated the Cowboys secondary. Um, it's just it hurt me to see him go. It hurt every single Eagles fan to watch Chip Kelly just destroy that team. But and I go back to what I was just talking about in the previous topic about 2019 and just trying to get Carson Wentz back to form, and there there the feeling and the aura, there was something different about Deshaun's return back to the team in 2019. That week 1 game against Washington, I think they're down 17 nothing or 17-3 in halftime. They're trying to get something going. Most of the team, like the first stringers, didn't play many preseason games, if not at all. And Carson and Deshaun just come out firing on all cylinders together. He's hitting him on a bunch of out routes. He gets him downfield for 2 deep balls twice, and just the level of celebration that there was to see a glimpse of who Deshaun was in his prime, hooking up with yet another quarterback for the Eagles, in which him already catching touchdown passes from Foles and Donovan McNabb, and then later on, where Jalen Hurts hits him for the 82-yarder against Dallas in what was arguably a meaningless game. But man, there's just too many moments for me to think about. But I think that week 1 game against Washington in 19 goes a little bit under the radar just
Yeah,
because
that was, yeah,
Deshaun's
but he
past
pretty
his
much
prime.
didn't.
But
He pretty much didn't play for the rest of the season after that, with
unfortunately,
due
he
to an
did
injury.
not. But that was
It was a great game though.
that's probably one of the greatest what ifs. If he stayed healthy, what he could have meant to that offense that year, because that's just a wrinkle. That's just an extra
'Cause
wrinkle
that was a year
upon.
they had no receivers.
No, no, but it was all Zach Ertz and Dallas Goddard, and you add Deshaun into that mix. Oh,
Okay,
yeah, we're
so
we're better off now.
there's a lot of things that I could talk about with Deshaun's career with the Eagles and what was my favorite moment. But I'm just gonna tell you guys the truth. My favorite moment of Deshaun's career was actually when he wasn't on the Eagles anymore. Week 2, 2018, Eagles versus Buccaneers.
Oh
He goes
man, yeah.
for 4 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown. Absolutely torched the Eagles secondary.
Hmm.
After the game, Deshaun is hyped up. He's emotional. He's letting everyone know. He comes to Doug Peterson after the game and he's like, "Yeah, Doug, like, you know, you guys should have not got rid of me and blah blah blah." And Doug's just sitting there like, "I didn't do that shit. Like, don't
Yeah.
look at me. I didn't have nothing to do with that. That was Chip
Oh,
Kelly." And I just always think about that when it comes to Deshaun. I will never get that. I will never forget that. I just thought that was so funny. But yeah, Chip Kelly, he absolutely destroyed this team. Both getting rid of not only Deshaun but LaShawn McCoy. Both of these guys, man, if they would have stayed around a couple more years, they would have been on a team that won the Super Bowl. it would have just been amazing to see the two of those guys win a ring in Philadelphia after everything that they did. But
They didn't.
DeSean was always like a big play waiting to happen, even if he was
Mm-hmm.
having a really, really quiet game for the most part. It only took one huge play that he was going to make in the game, and it was going to make such a huge difference. So, yeah, DeSean Jackson is going to be an Eagle that people talk about for a very, very, very long time.
I kind of like the comparison, and I think that was going back to that. I think that was the same. I think that was around the same time where they didn't want to pay Jeremy Maclin either.
Yep, that
So
was the
they,
following season. Jeremy Maclin had like a career season, his best
mhm,
season. And Chip Kelly was like, "Nope, we're good. Like, we're not gonna pay you." So it was just an absolute disaster.
just to add more salt to the wound. That was awful. But I seen a comparison on Twitter with DeSean and like for the city of Philadelphia with Philadelphia sports, and somebody said that the Sixers had Allen Iverson and the Eagles had DeSean Jackson. I, it's, I thought that was a pretty unique comparison in like their their styles as a player in their respected sports, what they brought to the city and everything. Um, you know, in all the moments that Iverson had, just the level of confidence he played with,
Yeah,
just yeah, I mean, that's a pretty darn good one to me. I thought that's myself. You know what? Yeah, I kind of like that.
I
But
can see where people are coming from, but I can't. I just can't go there.
two
Allen
undersized
Iverson,
players in
he
their sport.
Allen Iverson carried the Philadelphia 76ers. DeSean Jackson never carried the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, yeah, I think from a leader
So
perspective,
it's
yeah,
a little much for me, but I still kind of see where they're trying to go with that. I
there,
just can't.
yeah,
I'm just not willing to go that far. But what I
yeah.
will say is this: a lot of people have been comparing Devonte Smith with DeSean Jackson and saying, both guys, small frame, people don't think they can last in the league. And
Mm-hmm.
Devonte is off to a good start. I mean, earlier this season, what were you talking about with Devonte Smith? Like all the posts on Twitter about Deshaun, should he request a trade? Should he do all this? The last few games, man, like people have been talking about AJ Brown's quiet, but I'll tell you one thing: Devonte Smith has been loud. He's been making plays. He's been making catches when people need him to
I
make it.
I
So I
mean,
really do like that comparison with Deshaun and Devonte Smith.
did we forget the 2021 season already and the damage that Devontae did with without AJ Brown there? There was no definitive number one on that team. He comes in as a rookie and he
Oh, I think he's
so
a number one receiver. There's no question. I just don't think he's a number one receiver because we have AJ Brown.
1A and 1B. Yeah.
So I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure another team, if they had Devontae Smith, he would be their number one receiver. There's a lot of teams that would be the case.
And then
But yeah,
you bringing him up reminded me of the fact that I had to watch Deshaun's press conference yesterday coming into Philadelphia, celebrating his birthday, signing the papers, retiring as an Eagle, and all that. And that comparison was brought up. He was asked about, between him and Devonte Smith, what he sees in Devonte's game that draws the same comparisons. And he said that, yeah, Devonte's a little taller than me, but we're two undersized guys. That was the biggest criticism for the two of them. They're not going to last in this league because they don't have the extra size to them, and just look what they're doing. They overcame the odds. They overcame that assumed criticism going in, and uh, DeSean made such a name for himself, being the hero to a lot of players that he became, and he
yep,
recognized that in the conference, and and just appreciating Devontae as a player, and the Eagles Twitter page, they or X, whatever. But they dropped a video yesterday. He's out there on the practice field meeting with a bunch of the players, and it just brought back so many memories for me. Linking up with Kelsey and having, him and Lane Johnson having fun with them. He talked to Devontae, he talked to AJ. He even had a conversation with Quez. So that was, I mean, another kid that we were hoping for a little more expectation out of him, and he's supposed to be one of the big burners on this team, and he gets to talk to D-Jax and all that. I thought that was great, and he goes out there to catch a pass, and he said in his press conference, and I appreciate it. And they asked him about it, and he says that he could still play at 30. He just turned 37 years old, and he feels that he could still play. And he said he thinks about it. He's like, it's 50-50, and he's like, you never know what the future brings, but he just signed for retirement, so I'm not going to put much stock into that. But for him to have the mindset to think that he can still play at 37 years old and burn one of these young corners in the league, to me, is just unbelievable. Like, his catching skills are still
he
there.
He can really burn it.
Unreal. So, man, I got 2 of his jerseys for a reason. So, I mean, we're all going to miss him. We're all going to miss him.
For sure.
Congratulations, D-Jax. So,
congratulations, DeSean Jackson. Moving on to our next topic, Lindy.
Absolutely.
What are we doing now?
We have to talk about this Shaq Leonard situation.
Oh, yeah.
We got to talk about him, and then we're going to throw another nugget in there because somebody else, well, actually 2 more people have gotten released. I think we'll get to the Adrian Amos situation as well, but another opportunity for the Eagles to bring somebody in. Shaq Leonard, linebacker out of the Colts. He has had quite the injury history, in his career at 28 years old. Anywhere from a couple of concussions, one of them being a grade 2, unfortunately, that was last year. Bulged discs in his back, to which he had surgery for. I think he ended up having surgery on his ankle. So again, it's the Eagles are in another situation where they have it's going to be yet another risk. But he visited Dallas first. He then comes to Philadelphia, and he is going to. It's expected that he's going to make a decision over the weekend on where he wants to go. We all understand that he has a very good relationship with Nick Sirianni. So I had to ask you, and now with the unfortunate news of Zach Cunningham being out for this game, the timing is not there, to which even if Shaq signed yesterday, that's not enough time in between for him to suit up and be ready for this matchup. So it'll most likely be next week. But where do you think he goes? I mean, right now it's just Philly and Dallas. Where do you think he's going to ultimately go, all things considered?
I think he's going to go to Philadelphia because of the fact that he has a relationship with Nick, which you discussed. Nick knows him very well. He's been talking to him and calling him and actively trying to recruit him to go to Philly. And if you actually remember when Nick had his first press conference and people were dissing him, Shaq came to his defense and was like, he's going to do a fantastic job. You guys are going to learn, what kind of coach he is. So Shaq also thinks highly of him. And the Eagles have an injury to their linebacker position. Nakobe Dean's out. Zach Cunningham's out. There's a strong need for them. So for him to come in, and he's going to be able to play a lot of snaps right away. So I think it's going to provide him with a really good opportunity. So I do think he ends up going to Philadelphia.
You can arguably say that you can arguably say that both Dallas and Philly are in very similar scenarios when it comes to the depth of their linebacker position. We just lost Zach Cunningham to the hamstring injury. N'Kobe Dean went on IR for a second time, and on the Dallas end of things, they lost one of their promising rookies to, I think, Overshown, to an ACL tear. He's gone for the year. Leighton Vander Esch is in a very difficult place for his football career because he suffered yet another injury to his neck that puts him in danger of an earlier retirement than he would like. So, I mean, both cores have lost two relatively good players. So, I mean, I think it just comes down to what Shaq would prefer. I mean, I'm seeing crap on Twitter like, would he really want to live in Philadelphia versus Dallas and blah blah blah. I mean, how many of the
I mean,
Eagles
Dallas isn't really a
players?
great place to live either. Like, there's crime there, there's shit going on there. Like, that's not a great place to live either.
I mean, most of the Eagles players don't live right in Philadelphia per se. So I thought that was kind of a stupid tweet, but that's not the here nor there. You might be right with him wanting to come to Philly. The amount of contribution that he would provide to both teams would be about the same. I don't know if I see Shaq Leonard coming in to the Eagles and providing a very high snap count. This year, the most snaps he played was in week one, where he played about 86% of the snaps, and then ever since then, he didn't see 80 or more until week 6 and week 8. He got hurt in week 4. He did not play. He did not play week 5. And then from there, the last 2 games, week 9 and 10, he's at 53 to 70%. So I think if he comes in if he comes in with a decent bill of health, they're probably going to play him anywhere from about 55 to, I'd say, 70% of the snaps. So everyone's worried about, well, he's not the same player that he was before all of his injuries.
Yeah,
Right
but
now,
who do we have? Who's gonna play over him?
Exactly my point. So if you get him in there in a good quality enough of a rotation, what does it really matter? I mean, he cleared waivers. Nobody was going to give him that $6.5 million that he was still due from the Colts on the remainder of the season. So, I mean, you get him in here at a decent value as a rental, as we know the Eagles to do as of recent history. So, I think the amount of similarity and the amount of familiarity with coaches to this perspective of coming to the Eagles, I think would pay a lot more dividends in him making an easier decision for himself. Like he can plug right in a lot simpler in Philly because there's a level of camaraderie that's already there versus a whole brand new environment over in Dallas.
Okay.
And from the perspective of playoff chances, both teams are in the same boat right now. We don't know how the next 6 weeks are going to turn out, but as of right now,
We'll
the
see
Eagles
about
being the
that.
better team at 10-1, you're gonna want to seize most of the opportunity as possible.
I'll tell you what, if the Eagles win this week, then it's going to be a much easier decision. But
Yeah, and that kind of, what, and I had to think that for myself too, because you know him not doing anything yesterday either, it makes a whole lot of sense because he gets to watch how the Cowboys play against Seattle in the Thursday night game, and now he gets to watch how the Eagles play against San Francisco in one of the primetime spots on Sunday. So it's like you get to do your homework before you make a decision. You see where both teams are, and
Yep.
that makes a whole lot of sense.
So
So
another
right.
thing, Zach Cunningham is out.
Mm-hmm.
But is there another Zach that could be in? As the Cardinals waived former Eagles tight end Zach Ertz, and he cleared waivers,
Mm-hmm.
and he's expected to have interest from a couple teams. He's supposed to have interest from Buffalo Bills and Baltimore Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas Goedert is listed on injury report for Sunday as doubtful with his
Yep.
arm injury, but he did practice, and he told reporters that he feels good and he feels good enough to play, but that's up to the doctor's decision.
Yep.
Whatever is
Still up
going
to
to
them.
happen is going to happen. But here's what I have to say about this.
Yep. I gotta know.
I would be very happy to bring Zach Ertz back to the team.
Mm-hmm.
The number one reason is Zach has always been a Philly player. He loves Philly. He wants to be here. He didn't really want to leave.
No.
We just the way our season was going that year, we wanted to give him an opportunity to try to do something. And unfortunately, with the Cardinals, they didn't do anything that year or any other year, especially not this year. So he has an opportunity to come back to Philly. And I think when it comes to other teams and stuff, I think he would turn down other teams to go back to Philly because I actually think that he really wants to be here and play here. And, with Goddard getting hurt, you have Calcaterra who's like always having a concussion, and Jack Stoll's okay, but is the tight end depth really that good? I don't think it is. And you have a guy that's reliable, that knows the players, that knows the team, that knows the system, that knows everything that he needs to know, and he's such a great veteran, and he's been on a winning team that's won a Super Bowl, and he could be a good piece for us to make a Super Bowl run. I would love to bring Zach back to the team 100%.
So I decided to, I already voiced my opinions on Twitter as well, but I'm tired of seeing just a lazy general consensus of people just like, no, Zach is washed. Do you not understand there? Do you not understand a couple of elements here? And I get that these are two completely different players in terms of skill set, but and Zach's injury history, of course, because he's had some issues. However, to me, if Travis Kelce can still play at a Pro Bowl level at 34 years old, you mean to tell me that Zach Ertz does not have anything left in the tank, all things considered, at 33? Miss me with that, all right? For one, first of all, miss me with that. They're NFL players. They have a responsibility of keeping their bodies in top form on a daily basis, through injury, without injury, it doesn't matter. Zach's still built to play at this point in his career right now. And how old was Brent Selleck when we still had him on this team that he was still contributing in a way? Wasn't he 34 before he retired?
Yep,
Because he was a
retired
part of
with a
that
ring.
Super Bowl run too. He was like 33, 34. So cut it out, people. I don't want to hear it. Brent Selleck still contributed. And when it wasn't him, it was Trey Burton behind him. Or Brent Selleck was a nice piece at the number 2 spot behind Zach Ertz. So miss me with that garbage. The second thing is, yeah, you just mentioned our tight end depth right now. Jack Stoll, who we know is an excellent blocker behind Goddard, and that's a nice 1-2 combination. But he's never he hasn't really evolved into a great pass catching tight end yet. And that's what we were hoping for. Like, okay, the first piece of the puzzle is there. He's great at what he does in terms of blocking. But can he get there? Can he get to a fraction of the level of what Dallas Goddard has in terms of a receiving tight end? That still hasn't happened to this point in his career. Grant Calcaterra, you just mentioned all the number of concussions that he has had over the years between the, him getting into the NFL
College, pros.
and then more so at the collegiate level. He had to leave football because of that. And unfortunately, another person in college football, I think it's JT Daniel, has succumbed to the same unfortunate ending for him. So you just hate to see that. But Grant just got out of a walking boot from an ankle injury, so I think he's listed as what I don't think he's active for this game, either that or he's questionable. But that's not the here nor there. They trade for Albert O. They spend assets for Albert O. In a way that they thought something was there, and he has not really been a factor either. So you mean to tell me that Zach Ertz wouldn't add anything that no other tight end is giving you right now in this offense? Like, just go back and watch the games that Ertz and Goddard had together in a lot of those 12 personnel packages where they're both going out there running a route, and you had the threat of two tight ends that can get open in space. Do we not remember the conversations that we have had where, oh, if Dallas Goddard improves his route running, he'll be twice as good as Zach Ertz? I think he has to a degree, certainly, but everyone was saying that, oh, Ertz is the better route runner. He's clear of Goddard in that, but he's just not as big, and he's just as good of a blocker. So you combine that element again, and you mean to tell me they wouldn't be productive?
No, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous
Like,
nonsense.
like stop it.
That's a nonsensical take, but we'll have to see what the Eagles decide to do.
Yeah, he deserves to come home.
They cleared some roster spots open, so
Yep.
who knows? Is Shaq going to come? Is Zach going to come? Are they both going to come?
Adrian Amos as well.
We don't know. We don't know.
Him and the Jets just parted ways today.
But before we get to the 49ers Eagles preview, Lindy, what's the Lindy Lane stat for this week? Or do you not have one?
It's not much of a lame stat, but I think it's a lame narrative, to where it's been said on Twitter that Hurts having elite numbers when trailing in games is not a flex on him. So I had to ask you this, what your thoughts are on this. But I mean, is there a true flex there for what Hurts has been doing when trailing
100%.
at the first half of games, or not?
100%. It's not even a question, because there's so many quarterbacks that if they were put in a situation, guys are supposed to be elite quarterbacks, like Josh Allen, for example. And Josh had a great game against the Eagles on Sunday, but when it was time for him to make that throw in that moment, he could not do it. But when Jalen Hurts is consistently week after week after week after week after week in these situations where you got to have it, like the game's on the line, the season's on the line, it's all on the line, he goes out and he makes that play. He runs for a first down. He escapes the pocket. He finds Zacchaeus for a touchdown. I still can't stop thinking about that play. I think that was one of the biggest plays of the game against Buffalo in the fourth quarter. Take the lead, you go 28-24. And then in overtime, it just seems like it's clockwork. When it's time to go do it, he's gonna deliver. There's no question in my mind. I'm never worried that Jalen Hurts is gonna choke. I'm never worried that Jalen Hurts is gonna screw something up when the game is on the line. I'm never concerned about that. So the thing that I'm concerned about is, can you do what you do in the crunch time and put it all together for a complete game. Because in order to beat San Francisco, I think that's what's going to have to happen. And I think that it can happen. And I think that it will happen. So, no, I think all the people that are dissing Jalen Hurts for doing this is they're upset because they want him to continue to lose. But any situation that you put him and give him a chance to win the game, he's going to go do it for you. So that's what I have to say about that.
I think it's just ridiculous. I mean, how can I put this without? How can I put this here? Intangibly, it's something that you can't intangibly, you can't measure it. It's an intangible that not a lot of quarterbacks possess. You gotta even at your lowest points. It's like, could we have trusted Carson Wentz to do this? Week
Hell
in and
no.
week out.
No, any situation like the last couple weeks, once you get down 10 points, it's over.
I mean, between both games, and I go back to the Chiefs game, and it's the fact that after their first touchdown in the first half, the Eagles had 15 total yards on 20 plays. Just imagine that. On 20 plays, 15 total yards. So again, going back to the article, like this is insane. So Hurts now holds the record for the most wins against teams with a winning record entering the game. That record was formerly held, I believe Peyton Manning was up there, tied with somebody at 13. Hurts just broke it. 14 consecutive wins. He's been completing 72% of his passes for 827 yards, 8 touchdowns, and only 1 interception.
Is Tom Brady not on that list?
No, he's not.
Really?
No, he was not.
That's interesting.
He was not in the I'll say that he was not in the top 3 or top 5.
Damn.
So I mean from an intangible perspective, that's hard to quantify. And this goes back to one of the first conversations that we had in the opening of the show with the topic of, back-to-back lucky wins, mind you. Is it the Eagles' fault that these miscues and this execution is not happening on the opponent's side? Is it our fault that it's happening? No. It's like, what do you want us to do? That. So it's like we're going out there to win the game.
You have a chance to go win the game. You have the plays. You have to make the plays. The Eagles are put in the same situation to make the play, and they always make it, and the other teams don't make it. That's not our problem. That's your problem.
No.
So don't come crying to me about a drop pass and this and that. Like, execute your stuff, and you won't be complaining. But because you can't, you are.
The worst part about it is just bring up the fact that if the Eagles are playing that bad in the first half of games, why isn't the opponent putting us away? Why aren't they putting us out of our misery if we're that bad? It's just a part about it. It's the biggest thing is like they're making the adjustments. They're making the adjustments going into halftime. Other teams aren't necessarily, or they're not adapting to the adjustments. They allow us to come back. They allow us to get back into the game or take the lead. And there's almost like a level of shell shock there. We're like, well, wait a minute. We had these guys. We beat them down. What are we doing? No, so it's like I'm not going to use the analogy because it's awful, but it's like leaving something for dead. but they weren't really dead. You allowed them to come back, and now you're paying the price for it. So it's like, you're not putting us out of our misery. And it makes it a lot more difficult when we have the type of quarterback that we do. That's just not going to give up. That's not in his DNA. That wasn't in his DNA when he was at Alabama. Tua's taken his place. That wasn't in his DNA when he was playing for Oklahoma. It's certainly not going to be the same at the NFL level. He's proven that, and only after his second year of starting, and after the second year of Sirianni being a head coach, this team was just in the Super Bowl last year. so I mean,
They got a chance to go back, but if they are going to get back, they're going to have to beat the San Francisco 49ers, who they will be playing on Sunday, and they will probably see that this will probably be the first of two meetings between these teams between now and the postseason.
Yeah.
And whoever wins that game is going to go to the Super Bowl when they meet in January. We know that. So the 49ers have had they've had their struggles. They lost 3 in a row, had guys out and everything, and they've gotten it back together, and they look like a very dominant team right now. So the 49ers are 3-point favorites in this game, despite the Eagles' 10-1 record. The Eagles are the first team of 10-1 or better to be underdogs at home in NFL history. So I think this is a lot of this is based off of how the 49ers are winning games versus how the Eagles are. 49ers have a lot of blowouts. Eagles don't have a lot of blowouts. They win close games. They win tight games. So I think that to win this game, the Eagles are going to have to figure out a way to win without having to come back, because I don't think it's going to work. If you get down 10-0, 17-7 or whatever, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be an issue against San Francisco because San Francisco is a really good team. So this is what I think needs to happen. Christian McCaffrey has to be the guy that you focus on. I know they got Deebo Samuel. I know they got Ayuk. I know they got Kittle. I know they got weapons, but this is a guy that makes this engine go. And if you can slow him down and make someone else beat you, I think that's the best situation for the defense. Last week, you look on the stat sheet and it says the Eagles gave up 150 plus yards of rushing. However, the Buffalo Bills couldn't really run the ball. The reason why they have all those yards is because Josh Allen killed the Eagles with his legs. He was too big and strong for them to bring him down.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy can move a little bit. He's not like a statue, but he's a guy that is not going to be able to make those same kind of runs and stuff like Josh was doing. So you got to take McCaffrey out of the game as much as possible. He probably is still going to make plays here and there, but you can't let him get going, because if it is, it's going to cause some problems. I think that the Eagles can match this San Francisco offense, because if you look to the Miami game, it's going to be similar, because Miami was trying to do all this stuff and like motion and moving all these guys, which comes from San Francisco. McDaniel comes from San Francisco, working with Kyle Shanahan. He's going to try to do the same thing. Stay disciplined, stay home, handle your man, and that's the best situation I think the defense can put in. Now, I think it's going to come down to what the offense does, and they need to get off to a good start. You cannot have turnovers. You cannot have any big plays that come back because of holding. Got to be disciplined, take care of the ball. And I think in this game, you got to get A.J. Brown going early, because teams have been focusing more on him since Goddard has been out. I think that's one of the biggest things that's affected the Eagles with Goddard's injury, is that, that middle section of the field is kind of getting closed up because Goddard's not there anymore. So they're like, okay, we're going to go after AJ, and Devontae is benefiting from that. But AJ Brown, if you can get him going early, get this crowd involved, it's going to be tough. But I think that if the Eagles can played the style of football that they've played in the second half of games where they've made like their biggest plays, get off to good starts, I think they're going to have a great chance to win this game. I think everyone is expecting the Eagles to lose. I don't think they're very happy about that. So this is going to be the week that the Eagles come out and send a statement to the league that they are the best team in the NFL.
Funny enough, they picked this game as the game for Philly to give the NFL a, like you said, a statement, but a convincing win to let everybody know that, yeah, we are the best team in the league, and it's not for just the reason of what our record shows. And I think that's why there's not a whole lot of credit being given to us, is that there's a lot of criticism to which is being said, oh, the Eagles aren't playing like their record shows. They haven't, as of late, had a complete game to where they played 4 full quarters. And this is the game where you have to play 4 full quarters. Let us go back to the NFC Championship game for a second. What was the biggest determining factor in what allowed the Eagles to get off to the start that they did? In my opinion, it's whose defense makes a statement first. The Eagles made that statement first. They they were absolutely trying their darndest to smother Brock Purdy. And going into this year, one of the weak points for San Francisco offensively is their interior line. The guards have not been playing very well. I think they've been allowing 5 sacks, a decent amount of quarterback hits, hurries, this, that, and the third. You understand that you have Trent Williams on the outside being one of the best tackles in all of football, but that's where a lot of teams have been trying to penetrate them is off of the center with the guards. So I think that's one thing that the Eagles will have to take into consideration.
So
I'm going to be
do you think this is going to be a Jalen Carter legacy game?
Between him and Jordan Davis, absolutely. We've been watching Jordan Davis carefully this year, watching him take that next step as a pass rusher because we know how he is at stopping the run.
We didn't get to talk about the play that he made where he ran all the way across the field. They said he clocked in at like 16 miles an hour.
Yeah.
300-pound guy moving that fast, man. That's pretty scary.
Trying to chase down Josh Allen. And he just about got there, and everybody thought he was hurt on the sideline, but the dude's trying to catch his breath. You're watching a guy at 300 and a quarter, like 325 pounds around there. Hit, my goodness, it's unbelievable. So, but yeah, San Francisco is probably one of the very few teams, if not the only team in the league, that is very systematic. They play as a well-oiled machine. They're built to not kind of like running a robot and making sure that it has the proper programming. They're built in a way that it's not supposed to fail unless it's altered in a way that it does, and it creates mistakes. And Brock Purdy is a big reason why they're as efficient as they are. Him, and I understand people trying to talk about him as a game manager from that perspective. And while that can be true to an extent, because it's the players around him that are making such a massive difference, but it's also Brock's ability to play in that system and be able to run an offense that Shanahan has constructed. Because while we've seen similar success with Jimmy Garoppolo, for Jimmy it wasn't very sustainable, and that's part of why he went out the door. And Trey Lance is in Dallas, so you know, I, I'm not sitting here with a level of nervousness, but you talk about the level of test for this Eagles team. 49ers are the biggest one. And I understand that the same was almost said for the Bills and the Chiefs, all things considered. San
No, the
Francisco
49ers are the best team that they've.
San Francisco is coming in to smell blood, and how angry they have been all year and all in the offseason for what happened in that NFC title game. The same level of disrespect is there. They're running up, they're running up and down the steps like Rocky. They're putting the Niners jerseys on his statue again, and it's floating around all social media.
Oh yeah,
Y'all did this last time, and what happened? So I mean, 425. You know how many people are going to tune in for that game? Like, my goodness. But I think the biggest keys. I think the biggest keys to victory are going to be as follows. You have to knock San Fran off of. You have to knock them off of their system. You're going to have to speed Brock Purdy up a little bit. You're going to have to. You're just going to have to get him. You're going to have to get him a little more off structure, a little more off schedule. Does he have that ability to go into a scramble drill? Yeah, he absolutely does, because defenses aren't built to cover that long. But
he's not going to run around like Josh Allen. He
no,
can't do that. He can move a little bit, but I think the ways that the Bills' offense had success against the Eagles was mainly because of Josh Allen. They got so many third down situations, and the coverage was really good, and then Josh started running around.
Dude had 51 pass attempts in the rain.
Yeah.
51 pass attempts. But that's besides the point that they had a hard time running the football. And the Eagles are going to have to be top notch again with Christian McCaffrey, like you were just talking about. But I am worried with the.
There's a 95% chance of rain in Philadelphia tomorrow, just so you know.
Yeah. You worried about our linebacking core? That's a stupid question, isn't it?
I mean, yes, against Christian McCaffrey. Yes. That's why I'm saying, like, we need to limit what he does, and we need to try to contain him. We're probably not going to stop him, but if he gets going, it opens so many things for them offensively. He's the engine that drives the 49ers. So if you can stop their running game, which I think they can, I think that's the key to winning the game. And offensively taking care of the ball. But score prediction time as we wrap up this show. I'm going to say this is going to be another ugly game. I don't think the Eagles are going to get in a big hole early like they did the last couple games. I have this as a 20-17 game. I think that the defense is going to make a play late in the game. Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Jalen Carter, somebody's going to get there, and I think they're going to cause a turnover that's going to be in San Francisco territory, and then it's going to set up a Jake Elliott winning field goal, 20-17.
So you got a low-scoring game in Philadelphia in the rain.
It's going to be an ugly, physical football game.
I think both teams are still going to be capable of probably hitting the mid-20s. I think I got Philly taking this one in a 3-point game again. I mean, it's been their unfortunately it's been their MO for the last couple of weeks now. They haven't been able to play to their standard a full 4 quarters of football. Um, I unfortunately feel that it's probably going to be the same this week. They're still at home. Again, you just mentioned the rain. Their defense is battered with, they had to elevate was it Ben Van Sumeren from the practice squad. So he's going to be active for this game. I think the most action that he has gotten was a preseason game against the Ravens. He's a very aggressive tackler. I think he is. I think he's good in the run game, but we were already a little weak in terms of how good our linebackers are when it comes to coverage. So it's like we're going to miss that with Zach Cunningham, and you got Nicholas Morrow left with with Ben and whoever else they trot out there. The second level is going to have a very difficult day because I almost had to sneeze, but let's not forget George Kittle. The Eagles are one of the worst teams in the league in covering tight ends. So they're going to be in for a rough day, but we have Jalen
Well,
Hurts.
we said that
We
when we
have,
played Kelsey.
yeah.
So I gotta say, in these kind of conditions, I don't know if Purdy's going to be able to make all these big throws against us. I think that they're going to have to be very methodical. And if you throw them off there, like you said, like if you cause the machine to do something that's not normally used to doing, then that's when it's going to cause issues. So I think physical football game, tight game, Eagles win 20-17. That about wraps us up for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for tuning in to the LinkedIn podcast, part of the Sideline Sports Network. Lindy, do you have
Yes, sir.
anything that you want to add?
Not a whole lot other than being in the 40s of episodes. We'll hit 50 soon. Quite a
Oh yeah,
quite a journey we have had, and LinkedIn linked in the end zone is going to be looking for its return next week for episode 3. I'm gonna be in the works of lining that up for next week, so be on the lookout for that one.
fantastic. So we will see you guys next Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern, to talk more Eagles with you. Until next time, enjoy the game tomorrow and go Birds. And we'll
Yes,
see you
sir.
guys later.
Take care, everybody.